Most people never realize that the distance between the life they are living and the life they have always wanted is not measured in talent, or money, or luck. It is measured in days. Ordinary, unremarkable days. Days that feel like nothing, days that seem too small to matter. And that, right there, is the quiet tragedy of most human lives. Not that people failed to dream, but that they never understood what a single day, repeated faithfully, can become. Think about this. The person you are today, your health, your relationships, your bank account, your confidence, the way you carry yourself into a room, that person was assembled one day at a time. Every habit you have, good or bad, was built through repetition. Through daily choices so small you never noticed you were making them. And if that is how the old version of you was built, then it is also exactly how the new version of you will be built. One day at a time. One decision at a time. One discipline at a time. That is the whole lesson. Right there. The rest of this is just me helping you feel the weight of it. The secret of your future is hidden in your daily routine. Let me ask you something. Have you ever looked at someone, a colleague, a neighbor, an old friend from school, and thought quietly to yourself, how did they get there? Not bitterly. Just genuinely. With a kind of wondering disbelief. Because you both started in the same place. You both had the same opportunities, maybe even the same dreams. But somewhere along the way the two of you walked in different directions. And now their life looks entirely different from yours. You see, most people, when they see that gap, they look for a big explanation. A lucky break. A rich uncle. A connection nobody else had. And sometimes those things exist. But most of the time, the real answer is so quiet and so undramatic that it almost insults people when they hear it. What separates those two lives is almost always a series of small, daily disciplines done consistently over a long period of time. That is it. That is the whole story. I am telling you, most people are not defeated by catastrophe. They are defeated by daily neglect. By the small things they promised themselves they would do and then quietly let slide. By the book they never opened. The walk they never took. The call they never made. The idea they never wrote down. The conversation with their child they kept postponing. These are not dramatic failures. Nobody notices them. Nobody records them. But they accumulate. Oh, they accumulate. There was a man I once heard about. A salesman in his mid-30s. He worked hard. He was not lazy. He showed up every day, put in his hours, took his calls, filed his reports. His wife thought he was doing well. His boss thought he was steady. But deep inside, he knew something was wrong. Not wrong in an obvious way. Wrong in the way that a house slowly settles into the ground, invisible from the outside, but the cracks are there in the walls if you look closely enough. He had been meaning to read more. For years. He had a shelf full of books he bought with real intention, real hope. Business books. Philosophy. Biographies of men he admired. They sat there. Every morning he walked past them on the way to the kitchen. Every night he told himself, tomorrow. And tomorrow kept being tomorrow. One evening his son, 12 years old, came to him and said, "Dad, who is your hero?" And the man sat there, trying to answer, and realized with a quiet kind of devastation that he did not have one. Not because no great men existed, but because he had never spent time with them. He had never sat down and read their words. He had been too busy living on the surface of his days to go any deeper. That question changed him. Not with fireworks. Not with a dramatic vow. He just started reading. 15 minutes in the morning. Before the phone, before the news, before any of the noise. 15 minutes. A small, completely undramatic habit. And over 2 years that man changed. His conversations changed. His thinking changed. His confidence in a room changed. His son noticed. His wife noticed. He noticed. All of it, from 15 minutes a day that he had always had available and never used. Now understand this, the habit was not the miracle. The miracle was the commitment to the habit. The daily, undramatic decision to keep showing up for himself even when nobody was watching and nothing dramatic was happening. That is what most people miss. You cannot change your destination overnight, but you can change your direction overnight. Here is the truth about human beings. We are not rational creatures who occasionally act emotionally. We are emotional creatures who occasionally act rationally. And our emotions, bless them, are built for survival, not for growth. The part of you that resists the new habit, that finds reasons to skip today, that tells you it does not matter, that part is not broken. It is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is protecting you from the discomfort of the unfamiliar. But here is the problem. Growth lives on the other side of discomfort. Every time you choose comfort over the discipline, you are not just losing one moment. You are reinforcing an identity. You are telling yourself, I am someone who quits when it gets hard. I am someone who chooses the easy thing. I am someone who does not follow through. You may never say those words out loud. But your nervous system is listening. And it is taking notes. Ask yourself, how many years have you been living slightly beneath the person you know you could be? Not dramatically beneath. Not catastrophically. Just slightly. Just enough to feel a low, persistent ache when you lie still at night. Just enough to make you scroll a little longer than you should, searching for something to fill the space where your progress should be. That ache is important. Do not medicate it. Do not drown it in noise. That ache is the part of you that remembers what you said you would become. It is not there to punish you. It is there to guide you. The question is whether you will listen to it or silence it again tomorrow. Think about a young woman who came from nothing. Her family had no money, no connections, no particular advantages. She grew up watching her mother work 2 jobs and still struggle. And she made a decision early on, not a loud decision, not a declaration in front of anyone, just a quiet internal promise. She would do one difficult thing every day that the people around her were not willing to do. She did not do 100 things. She did not overhaul her entire life at 22 and try to be perfect. She just did one thing. Every single day. Some days it was waking up an hour earlier. Some days it was saying no to the distraction when she really wanted to say yes. Some days it was having the uncomfortable conversation instead of avoiding it. One thing. Daily. 10 years later, people around her marveled at her success and called her lucky. They looked for the shortcut she must have found, the connection she must have had. And she would smile, because she knew the truth. There was no shortcut. There was only the 10 years of daily deposits, quietly made, faithfully kept, and visibly compounding, until one day the account was full enough that the world could finally see the balance. You see, that is what most people do not understand about consistency. They think it is boring. They think it is for people with no ambition. They think real success must come from bold, dramatic moves. But the bold move is the daily discipline. The dramatic act is showing up on the day you do not feel like it. The courageous thing is the small thing, done again and again and again, long after the initial excitement has faded and all that is left is your character. Motivation gets you going. Discipline keeps you growing. Let me tell you something about motivation, because this is where most people get confused. Motivation is real. It is powerful. It is beautiful when it arrives. But it is not a strategy. You cannot schedule it. You cannot force it. It comes and goes like weather. And if you are waiting for motivation to show up before you begin, then you are going to spend most of your life waiting. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it all together, who seem to produce consistently, who seem to build and grow and improve year after year, they are not more motivated than you. They are more disciplined than you. They have built systems that do not require motivation to run. They have created environments that make the right choice easier than the wrong one. They have made their habits automatic, so that the question is no longer do I feel like it today, but simply this is what I do. Think about it. You do not stand in front of the mirror each morning and motivate yourself to brush your teeth. You just do it. It is automatic. It is who you are. The goal, the real goal, is to move your important disciplines into that same category. To make them so embedded in your identity that skipping them feels wrong. Uncomfortable. Out of character. Not doing the work becomes the disruption, not doing the work. That shift, from I should do this to this is who I am, is everything. That is the whole game. I want to tell you about two brothers. Same family, same upbringing, same city. One spent his evenings watching television and scrolling through his phone. Not because he was a bad person. He was kind, funny, loved by his family. He just never thought much about what he was doing with his quiet hours. He thought of them as rest. Recovery. Deserved relaxation after a long day. And maybe they were, for a while. The other brother had a different philosophy. He believed that the hours after work, the 2 or 3 hours between dinner and sleep, were the most important hours of his day. Not because he had to be productive every minute, but because those were his hours. The job owned his daytime. The family had claims on his energy. But those quiet evening hours belonged entirely to him, and he treated them accordingly. He read. He practiced a skill. He planned. He wrote down his thoughts. He studied the people he wanted to become. He did not do this dramatically. He did not post about it. He did not announce it. He just did it, quietly, evening after evening, year after year. 20 years later the two brothers stood in very different places. And the one who had spent his evening scrolling could not quite understand why. He worked just as hard. He was just as smart. But he had been making tiny withdrawals every evening for 20 years while his brother had been making tiny deposits. And compound interest does not care about your intentions. It only counts your actions. Ask yourself right now, what are you doing with your quiet hours? Not your busiest hours. Your quietest ones. The ones that feel like they do not count. Because I am telling you, those are the hours that decide everything. The things you do in private determine what you become in public. Here's what I want you to understand about the psychology of daily habits. They are not just actions. They are votes. Every time you follow through on a discipline, every single time, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. Every time you skip it, you cast a vote against that person. And your identity is simply the story told by the majority of those votes over time. This means the habit matters less than the keeping of the habit. The specific thing you do is less important than the fact that you do it faithfully. Because the real product of daily discipline is not the skill you build or the page you write or the mile you run. The real product is the identity. The self-concept. The quiet, unshakable knowledge that you are someone who does what they say they will do. And when you have that, when your relationship with yourself is one of trust, of follow-through, of integrity, something changes. You start to believe in your own potential in a way that no amount of external encouragement can manufacture. You stop needing permission from the world to pursue your dreams, because you have already proven to yourself that you are capable of showing up. That is the most important confidence there is. Now understand this, most people are trying to change their results while keeping their identity the same. They want a different life without becoming a different person. They want the harvest of the disciplined life without planting the seeds of the disciplined life. And that is not how it works. It has never worked that way. The results are always downstream of the identity. Change who you are first, and the results will follow. Not the other way around. There is one more thing I want to say, and it may be the most important thing of all. The enemy of the daily habit is not laziness. Most people are not lazy. The true enemy is the philosophy of the all or nothing. The belief that if you cannot do it perfectly, there is no point in doing it at all. The belief that the day you miss means the habit is broken. The belief that because you fell behind, you have failed. That philosophy has kept more people stuck than any amount of genuine laziness ever could. Because it turns every imperfect day into a surrender. It makes the good the enemy of the perfect. And perfection, as a daily standard, is a trap. It was always meant to discourage you. Do not let it. The truth is, the professional does not need perfect conditions to perform. The professional shows up in the rain. The professional does the smaller version on the hard day. The professional knows that a 10-minute walk on the day you have no energy is infinitely more valuable than the perfect hour you do on the day everything aligns. Because the 10-minute walk is not just exercise. It is proof. It is a message you are sending to yourself that says, I do not abandon my commitments when conditions are imperfect. I adapt. I persist. I show up. What would your life look like in 5 years if you simply showed up imperfectly, every single day? Not perfectly. Not dramatically. Just consistently. Just present. Just faithful to the small, quiet disciplines you have been postponing for years. I think you already know the answer. I think that is why you are here. Let me bring this all together for you now, because I want to make sure you leave with something real. Not information. Something real. The life you want is not waiting for a breakthrough. It is not waiting for the right moment, or the right circumstances, or the right level of readiness. It is being assembled, right now, by the daily choices you are making. The question is only whether you are building toward that life, or away from it. Every day that passes leaves a mark. Not a dramatic one. Not one you can see in the mirror tomorrow morning. But the marks accumulate. The discipline compounds. The neglect compounds. Both of them are running right now, whether you acknowledge it or not. The only question is which one you are feeding. And here is the thing I want you to really sit with. You have always known this. Some part of you, maybe a very quiet part that has gotten quieter over the years as you have gotten busier and more distracted. Some part of you has always known that the difference between the life you are living and the life you could be living comes down to what you do with your ordinary days. You did not need me to tell you that. You needed someone to remind you that you already knew it. So consider yourself reminded. There is a version of you that keeps waiting. Waiting for the right morning. The right energy, the right sign that it is finally time. And there is a version of you that quietly decides, on an ordinary Tuesday, for no dramatic reason at all, to simply begin. One version stays exactly where they are. The other, one day at a time, builds something different. The habits are not the destination, they are the road. And the road has always been open. It only ever required you to start walking.